Welcome to the K2 Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Karen Kelly. Every week, I'll be sitting down with a sales executive where they'll share their stories and experiences that produce game-changing results. Let's be honest, sales can be a tough game. I'm sure at some point, we've all delivered a less than stellar demo, been ghosted by a client or two, and sometimes maybe we did more talking than listening. And that's where I can help. The stories and insights our guests share can be applied to your own business, your territory, or with your team, so you're not reinventing the wheel. Our weekly tactics and strategies help you get out of your head and start creating your own path towards game-changing results. Welcome back to the K2 Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Karen Kelly. Now, October is Women in Sales Month, and the goal here is to have a woman on every week so we can really increase our visibility, the awareness. And it's sad that we only have 1 month because we should be celebrated every day. But I'm delighted to bring Buket Necip to the podcast this week. And Buket was a former client of mine when she was an executive in the financial sector. And we talk about her transition from corporate executive for years to now founder of Free2Be Wellness, and really what propelled her to do that. And a lot of her journey started, being the only woman in the room, not finding her voice, sometimes not feeling heard, being on mat leave and getting in her head sometimes. There's a bit of fear, there's imposter syndrome. And then you add, years later, the pandemic, and you realize, there's boundaries that are being compromised. You feel the disconnect from your family, from yourself, and you realize enough's enough. I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to put myself first. And she did that. And the reason I'm so happy to share this is because I imagine there are so many people in her position that is like, I'm so fed up of the way I'm operating now, whether it's in work, whether it's something you want to break the cycle. But unfortunately, we let fear override us, and we can't see the clear outcome. We're financially saying we can't do it. And she just leaned into this, and she had an unwavering sense of self, of conviction, of belief. And she said, I know the why. I know why I'm doing this, and the how will figure itself out. And it did. And so she's now in a place where she's running a wellness center, and she's to the core bringing authenticity, bringing joy, bringing contentment, reigniting her soul, and all those around her are benefiting from that energy that she's putting off. She's also reignited, her relationship with her family. So they're benefiting from everything she's putting out there. So you'll just feel her energy and see how happy she is. And my hope is that if you are struggling with anything like this, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a job, but that you're fed up of the way things are running now, and you perhaps don't see an out, always know there is an out, and just lean into that self-belief, that self-worth. And again, the nitty-gritty will figure itself out. But if you're committed, are you interested or you're committed? If you're committed to a different outcome, you have to act. You have to put one foot in front of the other. And that's what she did. And, and the universe, in her voice said it rewards risk, and it did. And she's doing amazing. She's celebrating 6 months now, and she's the happiest she's ever been. So I encourage you to take a listen and just really look for ways in your life that, there's a better choice, that you're betting on yourself, that you're putting yourself first, so that you don't live a life of regrets. So I encourage you to listen. Let us know what you think. If you haven't downloaded the podcast, definitely invite you to download and subscribe. And again, we're always trying to improve, so would love to get some feedback in form of review. And thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. So as we continue October, Women in Sales Month, I'm delighted to have my final woman on the podcast. And this is somebody who I worked with when she was in corporate. I would consider her a friend. And now she's a trailblazer and an entrepreneur, and doing things that I would say a lot of people dream about, but not many actually execute. So I want to welcome Buket Necip to the podcast.
Hello.
Welcome, Buket. I'm delighted to have you and hear all about your exciting journey.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here and to get to work with you again.
Awesome. Well, before we dive in, October is Women in Sales Month. You've spent many years in executive leadership in the financial sector. Just reflecting back on your career, your corporate career, and I know you're still selling now, but when you think of women in sales, what kind of thoughts or emotions come to mind for you?
today, thoughts and emotions that come to my mind is it actually makes me cringe. Um, it makes me cringe, not because I didn't love it, not because it didn't give me the tools I needed in order to get to this place. Um, because of the feeling it always left me. I always felt I either wasn't good enough, um, that I was just, that phrase, faking it till you make it. Like one day I was
Mm-hmm.
going to be found out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't feel heard. And so everything now, when I hear work, because I don't feel like what I'm doing is work, I don't classify it as work, it's the W word. I think about my old days, my previous roles, and that's what I consider work. And so, yeah, it just makes me cringe and just not where I want to be. So it's nice to be in a place now where I can look back and say like, yeah, that was then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of keep it in the box in the past. And it's sad that's the way it had to be because you had a long career and I'm sure a very successful one. And it sounds like there's a bit of imposter syndrome and not being heard. And if you had a message, for young women starting in their sales career now, what would that be?
Don't be afraid to speak up. Use that voice. I think, at least in my experience, the more senior I got, the quieter I got. You have to behave a certain way or look a certain way, and it really does impact how you are mentally and how you show up, right? And you almost start to lose yourself. So I would say just be true to who you are, be authentic, don't lose sight of that. Um, you are who you are, and you should be celebrating it.
Hmm. And so, do you think there's boundaries placed on you that are perhaps unrealistic and just stunting your potential or who you are a little bit, that authenticity piece?
I think so. I think so. If I think back, then I was on mat leave and I was being called at month 3 to say, "Hey, come back. We need you." And you think in your mind, "Well, I have to. If I don't, they're going to forget about me." Right. And so
Hmm.
that it's stunts your balance, right, with your family. And then um, you become that yes person because you want to excel. And if you're competitive like me or have that drive like I've had, you want to be the person that they come to. You want to be that, um, and so you don't say no to certain requests or asks. And when you get to that point, for me anyway, it was traveling so often that I forgot my family. You forget who you are, and so it does stunt who you are. Yeah, it changes the way you might have been before. And not that it's a bad thing, but because you're really focused on where you want to go and you lose sight of all those other pieces that are just equally important.
Yeah, that's very true. And do you think Buket men experience something similar?
I don't know if they do. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say probably not.
Hmm.
um, I don't see it the same. Around a table, I can't even tell you how often I was the only female around the table. And so, there's instances where I needed to get home and it was 5:30, and for me, I had to go home because I needed to pick up my kids from daycare and do this and that. And, people would be like, well, don't you have a nanny to take care of that stuff?
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, no, I'm a mom. I'm a mom first, I need to get home. And they're like, well, I just stay here until until I, it's time for me to leave, until the leader of that group is gone. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
but your day is finished. Like, you're really not doing anything. And so
Hmm.
I find with us, or at least for females, the time that we're at work or in that mode, we're at work fully. We're fully engaged. I was up and open at 8 a.m. until 9 or 10 at night, and that's what I was focused on. And I just don't know if they have that same piece because their dynamics are just a little different. I do see it's different. It's changing. That you see a
Hmm.
lot more men taking paternity leave and stuff like that, which is great. But again, at a table full of males and me being the only female, I can't even tell you how many times I was overlooked for, even entertaining clients. Okay, you're going to take them to lunch, but this person's going to take the bigger client to golfing because that's what he does, right? Like, well, I want to go golfing. Why can't I take that client to golfing? Or, um, suggestion that comes from me versus the same suggestion that comes from a male counterpart, right? So again, often the voice isn't heard. So speak up. Don't be afraid of it. And if I could change, well, towards the end of my career, I did speak up. And I did get more vocal about my thoughts and my feelings and called people out for doing that sort of thing. Um, but I also came to the realization that if I'm going to speak up and I'm going to do what I want to do, this isn't the environment that's going to
Yeah.
prepare me. It's not going to be where I excel.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. Thank you for sharing that, Buket. And a lot of that, when I hear that, it's the culture that you're a part of, and it really is incumbent upon the leader to create that safe space to allow all voices to be heard, to really ensure that there's a diverse team, but also that you're mixing it up. That just because you're a guy, hey, I golf, I can get out there too, and if not, what can we both take them or something like that to really allow everyone to feel included and everyone the voices to be heard and everyone to be part of the team. So I feel that like that for me is what culture is.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny, keeping on that same note. In one of my roles, there was a female who had put in so much. She was so loyal to the business and was doing everything to excel. But because she had a child who was consistently ill, like there was health issues there, she kept being overlooked for certain roles. And I thought, well, she's very good at what she does. If we
Mm-hmm.
just support her in that, she'll give back what we're looking for. And I did end up promoting that individual, and we got exactly what we were looking for, but it was through a
Yeah.
battle, right? Like it was me trying to convince um, male counterparts or male leaders why it was a necessary move.
Mm-hmm.
And that one probably touched me more than others, just because I could understand the struggle she was really going through,
Mm.
and sometimes just need a little bit of understanding and empathy. And
Yeah.
I did find that, in finance in general, I do find that it's missing some of that piece. Like empathy is not as prevalent as it should be. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that there's women there, and they need to be there. But again, they need to use their voices.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny because I just wrote the word empathy down when you're speaking, and just thinking if that was a man in your role, they might, because you think about our innate traits as women, and empathy is one of them. Building trust is another one. Just the ability to nurture and connect. That's innate to us. But we need to leverage that. We need to lean into that. So it's great that you were in that hiring position and saw that, because sometimes people are looking for others that look like them, and surround themselves with yes people. And it's only when you can kind of, and it wasn't taking a risk on someone like that, but you saw underneath something, you saw the greater good, and you didn't, you went for it. And I don't know how many people would do that. So kudos to you for doing that, and getting the results you saw based on that. You were rewarded for that, and she ultimately was rewarded as well.
Yeah, it's nice when you sit back and you see that individual excel. If you can give back, it's a huge thing. You hear the reverse of it, where there's a lot of competition amongst females, or that we're holding each other back, and it shouldn't be the way. It shouldn't be the case,
Hmm.
right? Like just support one another. We have enough battles to climb. Let's
Yeah.
support one another, and figure out how we can work collaboratively and encourage
Hmm.
versus bring someone down. It's just not a place that I open up to. I don't welcome that. I really do welcome supportive
Hmm.
environment that's empathetic, that's free and authentic, because that's what we should be doing. It's where our hearts are happy.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Our hearts are happy. Yeah. And again, for me, Buket, that goes back to culture. If you're creating, sometimes they're pitting teams against each other or reps against each other. And it's like, why can't we imagine you break down those walls and create collaboration and come together, that, the results you can get, but don't pin your teams against each other. There's healthy competition, but then there's the extent where you can drive a wedge in between that. And I can say, as a woman in sales, been in sales my whole life, I never there was no cattiness where I was. There was just like, let's just get the job done. I just think even now, as a female entrepreneur, there's enough, you know people in the sandbox. We can all play nicely, and maybe that's what I put out there. Therefore, I'm attracting it. But I just think there's no room for that. Let's all just, like you said, like let's lift each other up and let's work for the greater good, and that's the end user or the customer.
Absolutely. And they appreciate it. They do see it. They do see it. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things with the competition. You said healthy competition. Everybody has their own carrot. So if you try to put a carrot that you believe is the right one, it'll never work.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's obstacles everyone has to go through in order to reach whatever that characterized carrot looks like. So being mindful of that, and knowing that that can draw that negative competition,
Mm-hmm.
not reinforce a positive culture. So just
And that's just awareness as well, knowing that you can't paint your team with the same brush, that what motivates one is not going to motivate the other, and really taking time, as you said, to be mindful and connect and check in and say what is your carrot, and why is that carrot important to you, versus I'm guessing your carrot's this. Well, no, it's not. So the more you push me, you're actually pushing me against you, not towards you.
yeah. I always use the term happy dance. What's your happy dance? What are the things that would make you so happy you'd get up and dance? I used to use that with with a lot of my teams, and it was funny. Not only did it make them chuckle and laugh and be like, well, I don't know, like, what do you think? Well, I don't know. Do you like lottery tickets? Do you like a sports team? Like, if sky was the limit, what would make you get so happy you get up and just do a dance? And one person just wanted to wear jeans to work. Go
Mm-hmm.
ahead then and wear jeans. So sometimes it's just the smallest thing that can have such a big impact. um,
Yeah.
they just want to be able to work through lunch so that they can get home in time to see their children or make dinner. It doesn't always have to be a major carrot. Sometimes it's just their major carrot, like you said, doesn't always look like the other one. So
Mm-hmm.
what's your happy dance?
Yeah, I love that. But it's small, like you said, Bouquet, but it's impactful, because getting home early, that has a huge impact. Wearing jeans, it's something that allows them to be like, yes, I'm getting what I want. My productivity, my energy is going to be different as a result. And how much did it take out of you to ask that one question? And also, I would say working in the financial industry, like it's heavy. It's like, there's numbers, there's a lot of things that get out of our control, that it creates a bit of levity, because it's like, what, you're asking me what my happy dance is, and it's kind of a pattern interrupt, that you're just so used to being your head down and numbers driven, that you're like, this is different. No one's ever asked me that before.
It was always a fun one. I always enjoyed that time of year.
That's
And
good.
when I say time of year, but I always ask them, anything new on your list?
Yeah.
What, anything change? And you get a lot from that answer. It's amazing how quickly you can get to know someone.
Well, it sounds like you were very intentional in getting to know your team, and that would serve you well.
It's continued to.
Good. Excellent. So, you talked a little bit about, sounds like a bit of fear when we're on mat leave. And I could say, I also struggle with that. When I was on mat leave, you're wondering, do I have a job to come back to? Who's looking after my stuff? Like, and so you kind of get into your head and it's all you know. So I completely can relate to that. And what I didn't love is that and this was me, like I allowed it to do this, but it took away from, some of the bonding time, because my head was going to the workplace. And my company didn't ask me to come back, or they were very respectful, but it was me. And I think that's something that maybe women, and we're like, when we're gone for a year and we're rainmakers, what's going to happen when we're gone, right? And it's that, maybe that leading with a scarcity mindset or fear based. And so it's like, how do you get in front of that so you can be very present and enjoy being with your baby?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I can say with especially it's my first. I have two children. My first one, I feel like I was present with both, um, and there's instances where you do want to go back for your own sanity, right? So I don't
Yes.
want to lose ground that things are going well. So I want to do the things that fuel me. I will challenge anyone to what really fuels you. Is it the work? Is it the title? Is it like what fills your cup?
Hmm.
So if I think about those pieces now, activity, fitness, motivation, those fill my cup. So if you're really eager to get back to work because you want to do that thing that to gain your own sanity back, I challenge you to think, what other things could you do than going back to work that not only give you that time to be present with your children, but also gives you that opportunity to fuel you. because that can actually take you long past maternity leave. If you're working, if you're doing all those things, if you know running fuels you, fuels your soul, makes you happy, then can you start doing that, that you can actually build habits that are going to carry through no matter what the environment, because those are the things that will really help when anything does get tough in that working environment.
I love that. And I think we want to go back to what's safe, what we know, and what's comfortable. But if we kind of, as you mentioned, take on a new challenge, it's growth. Like we're breaking through a different layer.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-discovery, I found that was a huge piece. And that's one of the things that I guess you have to kind of go through it to see it. But yeah, I would challenge a lot of the women out there, or even men on paternity leave or maternity leave, to say, hey, where do I get my source of energy from? It could be your family, and that's wonderful. But what's it that you can look at independently that can fuel your soul, that you really love? How can I keep a little bit of myself present? Maybe that's playing soccer. Maybe that's reading a book. Maybe that's hiking. Whatever it might be, just keeping that part present. Because as we continue through the career, the kids get older. We start to again think about, where was I? Like, well, I don't even remember who I am. But those little things that filled your soul when you're younger can continue to help you grow and keep you centered.
Yeah. And so, Buket, what would you say was that? I don't know if it was a tipping point or a number of things that allowed you to, invited you to leave corporate and fill your soul by launching and opening up, Free2Be Wellness.
For me, I think, like a lot of people, COVID gave an opportunity to see what we're really battling against. Being home, having the opportunity to see my kids every day, I truly realized how little I actually knew them. Yes, I knew what they liked to, eat for lunch, but I don't recall the last time I had gone to see one of their games, a volleyball game at school or anything like that. And so being home, being reintroduced to the kids, they're older, so having conversations with them, like they are real people. And we forget that they're not just my child, they're real people who have amazing ideas and have stories that they want to share with you. And so having that opportunity was really, I think, a turning point for me, especially when you couple it with pieces that deplete your energy so much. So work was just taking so much of me away, that I really started to turn in towards my kids and lean into that to help fuel my energy. And also, going into my working out from home, also fueled my energy. And I came to that point that said, well, why aren't I doing more of this? Why aren't I doing the things that I love and just being there to work? Right? I think we call it the quiet worker now, or quiet quitter. I'm not sure the term is out there anymore, but like you hear these things. And for me, it was, I just need a change. And if I don't do it now, when? Because it'll never be the right time. It'll never be the right time. So I just bit the bullet and took a chance, knowing that I was making the right decision for me. For me, that wasn't even a question.
That's so good. Because I think, first of all, congratulations on doing that. Because I would say, many people think it and it'd be a dream, but to pull the trigger is just, it's not even in their realm. And so for you to have that unwavering belief and just knowing it's for you, which is important, you're not doing it for others or for show, it's for you, then you're doing it for the right reasons. And it sounds like, you're setting yourself up for success right away.
Well, it's funny. There's the book that Feel the Fear, Do It Anyway. I'm not sure if you've read that. Okay. I would encourage anyone to read it. I was scared of it, and I remember speaking to my husband. He's like, I don't know, just think on it, do this, do that. And I was speaking to a marketing firm, a local female-run marketing firm, about not the concept, but actually how would we launch something like this. And she needed a 50% down payment in order for us to move forward. And I remember talking to my husband, and he kept saying, just wait, you don't need to do that now. And I actually went and I just did it, because I knew if I had 50% in committed, there was no turning back. So feel the fear, do it anyway. And it was the best thing I could have done. And at the end, my husband's like, oh, you did do it. Okay, then. So let's go, and having that support was obviously fantastic to have. And then my kids, it was reinforced with my kids saying, "Good job, mom." Like, I heard some of those conversations and difficult conversations that you've had. I've seen you upset when you come off the line, or they were home. They saw me through a lot of this, through the pandemic. They witnessed it, and they saw some of the personal challenges I battled against, being heard, being understood. Um, I had some feedback sessions that my kids actually heard around my speaking. um, I'm a child of immigrant parents, and so some of my words aren't always the same as others, and I was being provided feedback that was, I don't know how it could be constructive, but it was a very personal thing that felt of an attack, and I know it wasn't intentional, but my kids heard those sorts of things, and so for them to see strength through this, um, that fuels it so much. And my daughter to see, okay, this is what strength looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And for my son to see, this is what females should be treated like, not like this, but like this. It fueled it even more. Like, man, did that ever put a flame under me?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I want them to know how to respect and treat people. It doesn't matter if their gender or their race, their whatever. I don't even care anything.
Mm-hmm.
But for them to learn and understand it and see it firsthand, I know that I'm equipping them with power.
Wow. It almost sounds like, Buket, you didn't have a choice. You're like, I can't turn back now because they've seen too much. And for me to not walk forward and continue paving the path of what righteousness and what the right thing is to do, I can't do that, especially just hearing what you're saying about your kids were so instrumental in that before state hearing. That sometimes it's like kids maybe shouldn't hear that because they have their mom up in this place, but you're getting to know them again. And so now it's like we have this newfound relationship. I can't go back. And then, like, we've kind of taken it to the next level. We've reignited things. We're seeing them as adults. I got to go full. I can't go back for me or them.
Absolutely. It's funny you said reignite. So a big part of Free2Be is to reset, restore, and reignite yourself. So it's funny you use that word. I'd highlight it. Free2Be came from free to be yourself, right? Free to be your authentic, true self. And that's the whole, our name is built around it. It's about being yourself, being free, being open. And I always had this mantra of strong, calm, and confident. I've been saying it for years. And it's I guess my personal affirmation. I'm strong, I'm calm, I'm confident. I used to say before every meeting I went into, whether it was a good meeting or a tough meeting, I always said it. It's now on my wall in my zone 3 in my fitness room where we do our classes, because I want others to find that and to build that mantra or affirmation within themselves. But this is a place where people can come and reset, rediscover who they are, reignite their passion. And it doesn't have to be fitness. It doesn't have to be anything here. But if we can give you that little match that can fuel you to get out there and move and be that person you are, find your power. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. And so you're explaining and you're giving us your mantras and your slogan, which is amazing. So for those listening, what is Free2Be? Is it? I know you explained it, but like, what is it? A place? Is it a physical space you go to, or what is it?
So Free2Be came about through my passion for movement, for wellness and health. And it's a place where you can come, anyone can come, doesn't matter who you are, what level you're at. And it's about resetting, restoring, and reigniting yourself. Finding your voice, finding that power that's inside of you, and giving yourself that opportunity to shine. I used it. I've used the mantra, and I mentioned this earlier, the affirmation of strong, calm, confident. And so find your power I guess the next level of that for me is finding your voice, right? That's what transitioned into the find your power. We all have things that we want to exceed at or we want to do, and it's kind of locked deep down. And so what can we do to get that out? And reignite is a very intentional word that was used. And so you can come out here and we do training, group classes, have a social connection, but find the people that fuel your energy, that give you that source of support, pride. You always hear the saying, or I've heard the saying so many times, surround yourself with people that you want to be like. Um, that give you that energy. And so that's what this is really about. And it's crazy to think 6 months, November 1st is when we're celebrating our 6 month. And the ladies that come in here, some of the people that come in here, they sit and they chat, and they could chat for an hour or 2 hours. They eat lunch together. So not only do the classes, but they get that opportunity to fuel each other's energy. And it's a pretty incredible place to be.
Wow, congratulations. That's huge. That sounds amazing. And you know, how do you feel knowing that you've created this connection, this community for people?
How do I feel about it?
Yeah.
I'm so full of joy. My heart is so full. Um, when I hear people walking around and talking, or I hear music going on in the fitness room, and I've got someone dropped in to do something, and I hear all of these little bustling movements, I'm so happy. Like, I'm so excited and genuinely happy to be a part of their lives and to be a part of that journey for them and that story. Um, we have float pods here, which are deprivation tanks. Not a lot of people have heard of them, or have heard and are kind of scared to take a leap and try them. Um, those pods helped me through anxiety and panic attacks when I was going through the corporate world. It was actually towards the tail end that I started to feel those ways. And it was because I had this inner battle or inner conflict of finding my balance between my family and my work and my career and all that sort of thing. And my husband was the one who suggested it. And now I have that opportunity to be able to give that outlet to others that's non-medicated, and it saved me. Like, it really did help me come across the other side to be able to have not just the reigniting, but to be able to reset and restore yourself through something like a deprivation tank or float therapy, which is provides you with mindfulness, breathing, meditation. It's such a different piece that people don't connect to a gym. And so it gives wellness a different picture.
Yeah. When you said gym, I pictured more of a wellness center because, yeah, I've been to many gyms in my life and I haven't heard of any gym having that, or just even that energy that you put out there that's, mindful. You can still get a good workout, but you're there to do more. It's almost there. You work from the inside out.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. I have an executive athlete. He's an executive leader, one of my members, and he comes in. He's religiously comes in, and he comes in the evening, and he has hard days. And I remember there was one he came in and he just did about, I think it was an hour stretch, and it was a deep elite stretch class, and then he did the pod, and he was in there for 60 minutes. And the next day he came in and he goes, Buket, I need to show you this. And he actually posted it online, which was really neat to see that on his socials. But he had experienced the best sleep he had in years. And it was because of his ability to reset, restore himself here. So he can go back to his corporate place of work and have that fuel reignited. And so,
Mm.
it doesn't always have to be in a gym, but what can you do to find that and restore your own sense of balance? Um, you hear this all the time in work environments where, well, I don't have a work-life balance. And I think one of the things we found out through COVID is it's no such thing. You create it. So now that we know that you create it, you personally own that, what do you do about it? So I'm happy to provide a place where people can come in and find that balance and restore themselves and get out there and be who they want to be and be true to themselves.
I love that. It's almost got a magical name, free to be. It's like I can be whatever I want, and I can disarm and leave all the armor behind. And when you think about, we're human beings, but we act as we're human doings.
Yeah.
And and I do agree with the work life integration. And it's almost like, how can you invite people to pause for a moment and say, I need this? Because as you said, this is what COVID showed us, but we all have a choice. And the choice is to lean in and say, I want a different outcome. I don't like the way I'm feeling now. Or even you might not be that crystallized in your thoughts, going, I'm unaware of what it actually is, but this doesn't feel right to me. So let's go explore. So why are some leaning into that and exploring choices and others not, do you think?
I think it's fear. I think it's
Mm.
fear. Maybe it's financial, fear of financial losses. Maybe it's fear of what people think. that's unfortunately still there, is still prevalent, whether it's in a work environment or through social media. For me, I don't need to prove myself to anyone. The only one that matters for me is myself and my family. And so if I want to go out there and become a barista or work, in a retail store, that's for my benefit. It has nothing to do with anyone else. And so that's a hard thing to mentally accept, though. And so again, feel the fear, do it anyway. Just lean into it because it's incredible. Once you commit, you make that decision and you commit to it, amazing things will happen. I just put this out in the universe and said, I'm going to open Free2Be. It's going to be out there. And these people naturally gravitated to me that, like, wow, how have I been missing you my entire life? I'm so happy to have you here. My studio manager, Tammy, has been the best thing that's ever happened, in my life in years. Or I have an employee sitting here with me, Val. We have all these people that have come in, our members, and they fuel me with energy and with joy. And I think you put it out to the universe, and when you do that, it'll come right back to you. And so, believe in yourself, have confidence, share it with the universe. It'll happen. It'll come back, but you got to be committed to it.
Yeah, I love I love many things about that, but the one thing is that commitment piece. And I always say, are you interested or are you committed? And when you're committed, you do stuff. There's got to be action behind it. And when you said, you put the 50% down before your husband, I think you have to operate in that high energy moment because that's where the momentum is. It's like strike while it's hot, right? And also it's like, the 5-second rule. If I don't do this now, I might not do it. So I'm going to just drop it now quickly and make sure that, I don't change my mind.
Yeah, I love that. That was Mel Robbins. I was listening
Yes.
to a lot of her podcasts during my moments of what do I do next. I invite and encourage anyone who is just unsure of themselves, anyone who might be unsure of themselves, to go through that journey mapping. That's one thing that I think really helped me make and affirm that commitment, was taking some time to understand what truly you value, where you find you can give the best version of yourself, um, and and explore ways of how can you do it. How can you have your cake and eat it too? Because you can. You really can. This decision to open Free2Be was the best thing I've ever done. I get to be home to get I pick up my kids from school. I go to their games, but I'm still here with my members when they need me. And they're accepting and they understand when I can't be. But I do. I challenge anyone who's just not feeling it, that something's just not right, to pause and explore why. Explore why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I talk about that a lot. Just lean into it, and I think when we can hold space for ourselves, quiet in our mind, a lot of times we're perhaps unprepared what we're ready to see, and we might not be also in a position to deal with it. Whether it's financial, we're just not ready, and so we just keep going because speed allows us to not deal, right? So we just keep on going in this hamster wheel, and it's the courageous, the brave that stop and say, "Hey, this isn't right," and I owe it to myself. I'm betting on myself to find out why and make it better.
Yeah. You've got a lot more power than you think you do. You've got a lot more strength in there than you think you do. There's a book that I was reading when I was going through my journey mapping and working with my executive coach on this piece. It's called Sparked, by Jonathan Fields. And it's a wonderful piece. I actually got my certification, qualified Spark leader, Spark coach. Anyway, what it is that it takes a look at all those things that drain your energy and all those things that fuel your energy. And it helps you uncover ways that you can continue to fill your cup. And whether that's doing it while you're maintaining an employment or work. So, because not everybody financially can do that sort of thing. But it helps you find ways that you can consistently gain the energy that you're seeking. There's always something that will drain us of our energy. Maybe it's sitting in a meeting for an hour, 2 hours on Zoom, right? Maybe it's talking to people for really long periods of time. Maybe it's I know, doing those presentations. I realized when I was doing, reading that book, that one of the reasons I came home and slept for 2 or 3 days after I had conferences was because I was expelling so much of my energy out to others that I didn't have time to gain it for myself and
Mm-hmm.
refuel that. So I'd come home and like be knocked out for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, I'm losing my time with my family. And my husband would always ask, like, what is going on? Like, why are you so tired? It is because that was my way of gaining my energy, refueling it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I do invite you to take a look at that book. It's called Sparked, and you can gain your Sparketype and think about or learn and understand a little bit about yourself and your journey and what will fuel that energy, what will spark you versus what will deplete you, and um, just burn that energy out.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And we'll attach all the books you mentioned the show notes, Buket, because I think I haven't heard of that one. But I think it's very powerful because, like you said, you're going to attract more of what you don't want if you're putting negativity out there, and you're always looking through this defeatist. I can't. The brain is job is to predict. It's going to, and it wants to be right, so it's going to find evidence to support ways in which you can't. So
Change the
even though you
language.
yeah, you have to change the language and just look at, even if there's a little bit of fear, like just lean into it. And I know it sounds easier than not, but once you get these signs, these little signals, these little cues, people coming around you that weren't there, you're like, oh, okay, one foot in front of the other. I'm feeling a bit of traction. I'm moving in the right direction. And that paired with what you said, like what fuels me, like what's energetically charging to me here versus what drains me. And I think when we looked at the height of the pandemic, when we're on Zoom call after Zoom call, we are in a fishbowl. We are so open. Everyone's got eyes on us. When we're normally in a boardroom, you glance up, you look at, you're not like staring intently at the other person. So we're exuding way more energy that you get off that you're wiped. So I totally understand where you're coming from. And then you layer that with guilt because you're like, I'm not here for my kids because I feel like I just got off a flight from Australia. I'm so tired. Meanwhile, I only did a day of training.
Yeah, it took a toll. My goodness. And then you'd have Zoom meetings about effective Zoom meetings, and
Oh gosh.
oh yeah, I don't miss it. I don't miss it. But I guess at the end of the day, the journey you're on is the journey you're supposed to be on.
Mm-hmm.
And when you want to come off that bus and go and create something else for yourself, create that story, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because all it, I wouldn't change anything, even with my past in my corporate world, because it all helped me to get here. And that for me is so crucial. If I tried to open a business 10 or 20 years ago, I don't know how successful it would have been because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand maybe the skills. I didn't have maybe the skills, but I didn't understand myself enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So those explorations, everything you learn happens for a reason. So just get out there and challenge yourself. Don't be afraid. Just go for what you know is right for you. The only person who can tell you that is you.
Yeah. And that sometimes people are looking for external validation in others. And it's like, and it's scary because you want support in numbers, but it's like at the end of the day, you got to look inward and go, I bet on me. And I know that this is going to work, and that's kind of what's going to propel you to take that next step forward. But just with what you were saying, sometimes you look back and you're like, and I've done this in my life, and I just think, oh my God, all those little stepping stones, those puzzle pieces, the pebbles, they were all steps that led me to where I'm at today. And in the time, you don't realize it, but now you're like, it makes sense. And even unfortunately, they played a role too because the pain is same was enough. You were motivated, going, I want a different outcome. I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. And now a funny thing, my daughter's seeing this. I always say she's going to rule the world one day because she's seen it. She knows she's not going to take no for an answer. She's going to work that bit harder. My son has that much more empathy working with anyone, not just females, anyone out there, because he's seen the experience and what it can cause people emotionally and mentally. So it's all happened for a reason, and I couldn't be happy of where I am now. I'm so excited to be celebrating 6 months here, and being surrounded by these people that I get up in the morning and I'm at the studio. I'm here before 6 a.m. Some nights I always laugh because, I left a 9 to 5 job. I never had a 9 to 5 job, but corporately speaking, right? So I can work 24/7. But I couldn't be more happier about being in the studio 24/7 because it's fuels me. It gives me so much energy that when I get home, I'm ready to go, and my kids feel that, and I'm with them, and I'm present, and it makes for that work life balance I've been trying to achieve for so long.
Wow, that's so inspiring. It just makes it brings me joy to see that you have it, and not only are you helping you, but like look what you've done for your kids. It's so amazing that you're not only helping yourself, you're helping so many around you, your families, but then again the community you have within your wellness center. It's you're at the heart of it all.
I feel so blessed. I feel so without getting emotional. I feel so blessed that I could be here and be with um, surrounded by these people and have these opportunities. And it's come at a long time of a lot of work and a lot of effort. But I'm so blessed to be in a position where I am that I can spend time with these amazing people that I learn from every day,
Mhm.
whether it's a member, an employee, a staff, an instructor, these kids that are athletes that are coming in and showing me how to, these different wild exercises that I hadn't thought about or terminology or whatever it is. I feel so lucky to be here, and I wouldn't change it. Wouldn't change it. I
Mm.
try to put on my dress shoes and suits now. I'm like, nope, no, can't do it. It's not
The
who I. It's
Halloween,
not who I am. Yeah,
that's a
thanks for
Halloween costume
Halloween.
now.
Yeah,
Well, and you're just so truly deserving of a bouquet. So again, congratulations. Everything you put in, you're getting out and more. And the universe rewards risk. You took a risk, and you know what? You're reaping the benefits for you and everyone around you. So good for you.
thank you.
We're coming to the top of the hour now, and we've kind of talked a little bit about the struggles in corporate. Perhaps not getting your voice heard as a woman. Sometimes we have we're leading with our own fear, our own insecurities, whether we're on mat leave or not, and just how at a certain point we realize enough is enough, and we need to put ourselves back in the forefront and really allow our voices to be heard, and just bet on ourselves and be committed to the outcome and have a real strong sense of belief. And as a result, you opened Free2Be Wellness, and you're 6 months in, and you're just you know you're modeling the behavior for anyone listening here who's struggling as to whether you're female, male. It doesn't matter any of that. It's just there is another way out, and you have to just lean in and reflect, pause, and just say it like, do I want to live a life of regrets, or do I want to lean in and be the change for me and for others around me, family and friends and anyone else? So you did it. And so I hope that if anyone is or identifies with a part of that story, they now have the confidence, the insights, the awareness to lean into that discomfort and go, I'm gonna push forward. I don't know all the how, but I know the why, and I'm gonna do it.
And if you know the why and you're committed to that change, the how just happens.
Yeah,
It's like that puzzle just automatically just starts to fit in together.
they do. And pieces appear that weren't there before. And you're like, oh, they actually were always there, but you just didn't see them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Buket. And if there's people who are listening and would like to connect with you or learn more about you or Free2Be, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
You can reach us through our website. It's or any social media. We're free2bewellness.com, which is the number two. You can find us, on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course online. And I'm always happy to connect with people and hear stories and hear your story and understand, if there's anything that we can do to help, or maybe just get to know each other. Because again, positive breeds positivity, and if I can help you bring that energy, I'm certainly happy to try.
No, that's amazing. Well, we'll include all that in the show notes. And again, thank you, Buket, for your time. And thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Karen.